just a reminder, if you're listening on YouTube, that we're also on Spotify and Anchor now, so you can also listen to it whilst hibernating your phone. If you're on a car journey, or if you're on a long walk, you're cleaning around the house, or using Alexa or something like that, you can listen to us now in the comfort knowing that you're not going to have to keep your phone open. Obviously, YouTube is fantastic, and it's where we originated from, so I really encourage you to listen and watch as well the audio and video from the podcast, as obviously there's some hand gestures, some photos and stuff like that, but definitely knowing that you can listen elsewhere as well is really, really important. So please do head down into the link in the description and check us out there. On with the episode. The ability to recognize that you need to make a change in your life, again, whether it's physical or psychological, is the number one, not only most important thing, but it is the biggest accomplishment that you can make in general, because it's so easy for someone to talk the talk, but they gotta walk the walk. It's so classic, but it's so true. You need to be able to realize that you need to make a change first before actually making the change, because then if not, you're just going to continue leading a lifestyle which may not be either beneficial for you, efficient for you, or help you reach your full potential, again, both physically or psychologically. Ladies and gentlemen, just before we get into this episode of the Fitzness Podcast, just a quick word on our sponsors for today's episode, which are Quality Artworks and Rock Supplements. Now, Rock Supplements have been around for a little bit now, and I've been very, very impressed with the stuff that they're doing in Gibraltar, delivering supplements to people who maybe want specific companies. So definitely, if you're maybe looking at the likes of Redcorn or Ghost Supplements, definitely go and check them out in the description box below if you are based in Gibraltar, and use the code FITZ10 for not only 10% off your order, but some support as well for the podcast and to help us grow and get better guests on the podcast. Our second sponsor for today's episode is Quality Artworks. Now, Quality Artworks is quite a new one that we've kind of looked at, and they are the ones that actually created the brand new logo for the Fitzness Podcast, and I cannot say how pleased I am. I'm very, very particular about things like this, and when I knew that I wanted to change up the podcast, I wanted to make sure that it came out as perfect as possible, and they definitely delivered. So please head down into the link and check them out there. And if you want a design for your shop or your website or just a logo in general, please do check them out. On with the episode. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of what is now known as the Fitzness Podcast, ladies and gents. Just me today. Again, not only do quite a lot of you think that some of the episodes that I do solo actually are enjoyable as well, you know, I think it's also good to discuss why we made the change to the podcast, why we should make change in general in our lives. I think that was the reason why I decided to call this episode what it is because I think that it ties in well with the changes that we've made. And why did I make those? Why you might need to make changes in your life, and why ultimately those changes might affect your daily life and make them better, both maybe physically and psychologically or mentally as well. So first and foremost, ladies and gents, before we get into anything, I just wanted to say a huge not congratulations, a huge thank you to all of you who listen to the podcast. I'm honestly, you know, to a lot of people it might not seem big, but you know, over the course of what is now 43 episodes as you listen to this, you know, the growth that we've had is awesome. You guys subscribing to the podcast is unbelievable, and the views keep going up and up and up. You know, obviously something like the episodes with a guest will tend to get more listens, but you know, a lot of you know, who might have something going on might actually benefit from, you know, hearing it from another person. I'm not saying that I'm an expert in anything that I talk about, far from it, but I'm definitely, you know, I'm here for everyone in case, you know, they could pick up maybe either if it's 1, 2, 3 pieces of advice, or maybe even more than that, hopefully. So hopefully, fingers crossed, you do get something from it. And again, just a huge thank you to all of you, and please keep that coming. So yeah, first and foremost, I think I'm going to get into into why we made a change to the what was known as the Fitzness Academy podcast. Believe it or not, actually, one of the questions that I put out on the Instagram and the Twitter, which is all linked in the description, of course, one of the question poll that I put out for this episode, it is covered in that question, so I don't want to get into too much detail as to the Fitzness Academy or the Fitzness podcast story. But in terms of, for the purpose of this, the Fitzness Academy podcast, or this podcast now, the Fitzness podcast, was created on what was in addition to the Fitzness Academy, which is obviously still up and running and thriving as more than I could ever imagined. And I wanted to link those two in together, mainly because I thought they went hand in hand, and being able to, start off talking to people who are influential in the sport or in the health industry. And although that was fantastic, as I started to broaden out and started to get into podcasts more, listen to podcasts more, I started to find a love for trying to get on people who you may not have heard of before. If you looked at the slogan of not the slogan, but the biography of what the podcast is, it's off the top of my head, it's a weekly show which aims to inspire our listeners based on the views and opinions and stories of people who you may not have heard of before. And I think that's amazing, because whether someone has 200 followers or 200,000 followers or 200 million followers, their story could be as respectively more influential, more inspiring. You can learn more from it. So the follower count, it doesn't matter to me, really. It really doesn't. The podcasts which I enjoy the most, which are all of them so far, of course, have all revolved around just an amazing story or an amazing topic which I like to discuss, which is obviously going to be today's as well. So I'm going to get into that very soon. So in terms of just making the change in relation to the podcast specifically, the reason why is I felt that the Fitzness Academy, which is my which is almost like my baby. I started it during lockdown. Obviously I've got a podcast. I think it might be episode 6, I believe, off the top of my head, which describes the Fitzness Academy story. I started it during lockdown, and I've built it up to where it is today. And it's far from where I want it to be, which is obviously a very good thing. But I felt that the Fitzness Academy work was being hindered by the work I was doing for the Fitzness Academy podcast, or what is obviously now known as the Fitzness Podcast. And I don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that one has more priority over the other one. I put as much hard work as I do into anything into the podcast, into the Fitzness Academy. So yeah, not that one has more priority over the other, but I definitely feel that, at the moment, being able to help as many people as I can from a physical point of view, that needs to be separate to how I help people on a qualitative, or in layman's terms, from a non-physical point of view, or like a non-contact point of view, where the people I help on the Fitzness Academy, I'm trying to help them lose weight, gain confidence, grow muscle, get fitter, get stronger, like I already said before, get faster. If I'm working with an elite athlete, which I have done in the past, and still do, that's what the goal of that is. And the goal of this is to inspire people based on listening and talking through people's stories and my own thoughts on topics and their stories and their thoughts. So thinking about that, I could separate them easily in my mind. So I thought that would be a brilliant idea to separate them on an actual physical basis. So we have done, and I believe that there is already a fitness show of some kind. I'm definitely not the first person who's come up with that idea. In fact, I didn't actually come up with the idea. My friend, and I'm going to tell him, I'm going to give him a shout out, Rico Hatchman. Who's a really good friend of mine, has just had a little boy, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So many congrats to him and his partner as well. So he did come up with the Fitzness, because they always call me Fitzy, and they said, "Oh, fitness, Fitzy, Fitzness," and I just took that. Probably owe him a couple of pints or something like that afterwards. But no, it's I thought it was a really good idea to separate the Fitzness Academy podcast, or what is now known as obviously the Fitzness Podcast. I'm going to say that a few times in this episode, ladies and gents. I'm so sorry, but it's that's going to take me some time to get used to. That is because I don't think that I've said it for 42 episodes, so now for the remaining episodes for its existence, I'm going to have to just think in my mind and just tell myself, James, just remember the love of your life, just to say the Fitzness Podcast now from now on. But yeah, no. So yeah, that is why I decided to change, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it's a good one. It's been supported really well from everyone. They really love the new logo. Obviously, Quality Artworks, who are sponsoring today's episode, as you've heard already, created that for us. So a massive thank you to them, and a really, really big thank you to them. And please go and check them out in the description below through their Instagram. So yeah, but yeah, on with the episode today. Whenever I write the notes for one of the shows, whether it's with a guest or whether it's not, I kind of try to think holistically about things, because far more often than not, if it's someone's thoughts or someone's opinions or a topic that I want to answer or discuss, or normally that topic area normally stems from 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 topic areas. So I think it's really important to think of change as a multifaceted approach, and the way that how change helps us, or the ability to make change can affect our, like I said at the start, our physical health, our mental health, or our day-to-day lives. So starting us off, one thing that you guys need to understand straight away is that the ability to recognize that you need to make a change in your life, again, whether it's physical or psychological, is the number one, not only most important thing, but it is the biggest accomplishment that you can make in general, because it's so easy for someone to talk the talk, but they got to walk the walk. It's so classic, but it's so true. You need to be able to realize that you need to make a change first before actually making the change, because then if not, you're just going to continue leading a lifestyle which may not be either beneficial for you, efficient for you, or help you reach your full potential, again, both physically or psychologically. So that is definitely something that I want you guys to know straight away. And again, starting off with that really important point, when do you need to make a change? This is so individual. I don't think I could sit here and say, what, you need to make a change because of this. There are 7 billion people, and if not more, on this planet. So me being able to tell each individual person that they need to make a change, or when they need to make a change, it's completely different. Not that there are going to be 7 billion different types of abilities or needing to make a change, but realistically, it's going to be so individual. If one of my mates told me that he's having trouble with his girlfriend and he doesn't really see a future, that's one reason he needs to make a change. But on the flip side of that, if someone's telling me that the way that they're trying to lose weight isn't working for them, but then they've exhausted all of their outcomes, calorie deficits, types of cardiovascular fitness, or all of these different types that we've spoken about in the past, he needs to make a change. But those two are completely different. They're almost on the complete different end of the spectrum there. Because one's psychological, one's physiological, or one's physical in that sense. So, it's so different. So, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this is why you need to make a change. That comes from within. And that, again, like I said, that is the strongest and most respected sort of decision, I think, because you need to almost look at yourself in the mirror and go, right, I am not happy. I'm not happy with this. I'm not happy with this. So how can I make them better? Bang. That is your moment. The switch flicks and you need to make a change. So almost like, I think a good little thing where we can go, obviously I've got my show notes, but I think I'm gonna pause those show notes for a second and almost create a timeline for you, which you can almost use for yourself with anything. So I would say, first and foremost is identifying the problem, because I think changes are made from the onset of a problem or when something could be better. So from the start of that, identifying when something's either wrong or could be better. You know, if you identify that, cool, fantastic. You know, whether you write it down, you report it to up the chain of command or to your boss or whatever it is, bang, that change has been, that problem or that improvement, that potential for improvement has been identified. Bosh. That is the hardest step, because you need to identify and you need to approach it. So, like I mentioned before, so bang, that's a change. I think the ability to write an action plan from that moment on is also, yes, it's hard, but it's a lot easier than the previous step. Because as soon as it's like almost working backwards. Right, you identified something, we need to work backwards in order to fix it and make it better. You work backwards. What do we want it to look like? You know, like I said, using the examples before, a friend of mine says he's having a problem with his girlfriend and he doesn't see a future with them. The most probable outcome to make him feel better long term, or maybe for that girl or that boy or, you know, whoever it may be, is possibly to end a relationship. You know, again, this is a complete example. It's nowhere near something that's actually happening. But yeah, so the goal or the way to make it better is to end that relationship, most likely. Again, sounds really easy, but hear me out. Using the other example, this other person's not losing weight at all. He's exhausted other methods. So the end goal is to end up dropping more weight. So that is the goal, to try and make improvements. So to see this, again, I'm not a big fan of using like sort of numbers and stuff like that, but you know, it's in terms of sort of weight loss, in terms of body weight. But you know, again, just for the purpose of this example, I'm not strength and conditioning coach James. Just in this episode, I'm mentor James. So yeah, obviously the goal would be to see the scale weight go down, ideally. Perfect. So we've got our 2 problems, or our 2 causes for improvement, and our 2 ideal sort of endpoints where we want to be. So then obviously creating that action plan is step number 2. You know, how are you going to go about it? So again, using the example, if it is the needing to end a relationship, then that person, I would then advise my friend, or he himself, which is probably more important, would start thinking of an action plan in order to approach this girl or this guy, or this person, and start sort of planning to end this relationship in the most respectful way possible. On the other hand, myself, for example, putting the old strength and conditioning hat back on here, or the old personal trainer hat back on, whichever you want to call it. I'm one, but aspiring to be another. Would be then to sit down with this client, maybe over call, depends where they are in the world, and see, right, cool, what has been your plan up until this point? Let's see where we're going wrong. Because ideally we're going wrong, because the goal is to lose the weight, and it's not happening, so we're failing in our goals here. So yeah, moving on from that, you know, that is our action plan. You know, our action plan is to almost look at our action plan and see where we're going wrong. And that also could also actually be provided to the first example as well, because it's important, yes, to identify a change and why it needs, and sort of, or somewhere someone can improve, but there needs to be cause for why the problem's there or why it could be improved, because then you're just improving or changing things for the sake of doing it. You need to understand why a change needs to happen. If not, 1, you're not going to be motivated to make that change, or 2, that change is also not going to come out with the intended goal for that change. So I think an understanding as to why something needs to be changed, again, it should be up there with the most important points. So yeah, and then obviously the final goal before achieving that change would possibly be to execute that action plan. Again, it sounds It's like, yeah, cheers, James. Yeah, didn't know that already. Yeah, top man. Thank you. Yeah. I'm turning off now. But no, once you've got that solid plan in place for both examples or something similar, I don't think, without sounding sort of naive, I don't think there should be any worry really, because I think you've probably looked at or exhausted all possible outcomes within trying to change that, improve that thing or to solve that problem. So I don't think there should be any nerves really. Maybe one would have more nerves than the other. I think anyone who's trying to end a relationship at some point who may have done it before would know that there probably is some nerves there. That's natural. Maybe it comes somewhere else, but there shouldn't be any. This is what I was after. So there should be no doubt left in mind when that action plan is put in place. If it's this person trying to break up with another person, it should be that switch to be like, right, cool. I know I'm going to do this. This is how I'm going to do it. Let's do it. Okay, obviously, again, the nerves will be there. It's natural. And the other example, we look at the action plan. We've identified a problem. We want to solve it. We've identified where the problem could be coming from, whether that is within their diet or within their sort of exercise volume or how much are they exercising. Tom is telling me that he still wants to stay as strong as possible. So maybe am I giving him too much or am I giving him too little? So he's not losing weight. He's still strong, but obviously in his mind, he's really, really sort of keen on losing that weight. So we've identified a problem there. I've made some adjustments that maybe his cardiovascular training changes from moderate intensity to high intensity. So that's obviously burning more calories. Again, I know it's obviously stems a lot from the diet, but it's something that I can't really control. I can control it up until a certain point. I'm a really big advocate in not getting too much into the nutrition because I am not an expert in that. Personal trainers and strength and conditioning coaches out there who are trying to program people's nutrition need to be really careful. If I'm not mistaken, that's actually illegal because you need to be a registered dietitian in order to be able to provide a nutrition plan for someone. Setting up macronutrients and calories is fairly basic. That's fairly basic. That's fine. That's fine. And, I've done it in the past. But me going to you and saying, right, today you're having chicken and rice and broccoli, that's not it. I've got a really good friend of mine who's doing really well in his business, Joshua Mark. We've had him on the podcast before. He does recipe books, which is awesome because he's not really telling anyone where to write down his. Sorry, that came out absolute rubbish. He's not telling anyone exactly what to eat and when, but he's giving people the choice about what to eat instead. If Josh is providing his recipe books, which he has, I suggest you check him out. He's not, trying to say, right, you need to eat this all the time. But if you're thinking, right, what am I having tonight? And you're telling me, I don't know, I'll just get a takeaway. That's not going to help you in your journey. So having that recipe book there from Josh is going to help you, stay consistent on that plan. So that might be something that we look at in that respect, where you say, right, cool, how is your diet going? Obviously we've set up your macronutrients and your protein, your fats, your carbohydrates. Are you eating enough greens? Are you eating too much? Are you eating too little? Is your body not agreeing with something? So, that would be our course of action plan. Looks right. We'll change the intensity and we'll change the type, our macronutrients slightly. We'll give you a bit more food or we'll give you a bit less food and see how you react to that and go from there. So there's our desired outcome for both. So yeah, like I said, that is your action plan, ladies and gents. If it's any similar to that, you can use that as an example. So I would say identifying a plan, problem, potential need for improvement, identify why they are a problem and why it needs to be improved, create an action plan from exhausting all options possible, from the most important and the most obvious to the most minute. And this takes time, ladies and gents. This takes a lot of time. Don't think that it's going to take 3 or 4 days. or a few hours or a few minutes. It's going to take time. And then execute that action plan, whether it's, again, changing a diet plan, changing a certain number of macronutrients around, changing an exercise volume, or breaking up with someone, or I don't know what it is, whether you present something to your boss about an idea, and you execute that idea in a meeting with a team, as an example. And then, fingers crossed, you've done all that you can in order to fix that problem or create that improvement. Again, one thing, again, which, like I said, and that is your action plan, ladies and gents. So yeah, if you need to listen to that again, just go back 2 minutes and listen to it again. If you need to write it down, I suggest you do. Again, I'm not any expert, but it might help you. If it doesn't work, I apologize, but if it might help you. Ladies and gentlemen, apologies for interrupting this episode of the Fitzness Podcast, but just a quick reminder on our two sponsors for this episode, which are Quality Artworks and Rock Supplements. Now, Rock Supplements have been around for a little bit now, and I've been very, very impressed with the stuff that they're doing in Gibraltar, delivering supplements to people who maybe want specific companies. So definitely, if you're maybe looking at the likes of Redcorn or Ghost Supplements, definitely go and check them out in the description box below if you are based in Gibraltar, and use the code FITZ10 for not only 10% off your order, but some support as well for the podcast and to help us grow and get better guests on the podcast. Our second sponsor for today's episode is Quality Artworks. Now, Quality Artworks is quite a new one that we've kind of looked at, and they are the ones that actually created the brand new logo for the Fitzness Podcast. And I cannot say how pleased I am. I'm very, very particular about things like this, and when I knew that I wanted to change up the podcast, I wanted to make sure that it came out as perfect as possible, and they definitely delivered. So please head down into the link and check them out there. And if you want a design for your shop or your website or just a logo in general, please do check them out. On with the episode. In terms of that middle point there, taking time and being patient in your approach is really important, because it's taken you ever so much time to realize that there is a problem or there is a need to improve. So there's going to be not equal to, but close to a similar amount of time to make that change. Changes don't happen overnight. I think Gymshark now doing something unbelievable stuff with a 66-day challenge, where they believe that it takes 66 days to build a habit. Yeah, I love that. It might not be true for everyone else. It might take that bed behind me is made every morning. I just do that as a habit nowadays. I don't know. I couldn't tell you how long it's taken me to build that habit. It could be 66 days. It could be 666 days. It could be 6 days. I don't know. But so yeah, these habits take time, the majority of the time as well. But just try and, again, maybe have, again, another part of the, not maybe before you build the action plan and before you've identified the problem, have almost like weekly meetings with yourself to check on things. Right, am I okay? Again, that's a big thing psychologically that I'm doing, on a daily basis, right? Am I okay? If not, what's the problem? How can I improve? And the same thing with my strength and conditioning internships. I don't have it with me. I think it's over there somewhere. But I have a book. And in this book, where I write my plans and my programs and my session plans, so plans a lot there, after every one of them, I reflect. I write what I did well and what I did bad. And I send those to the coaches. I'm putting myself out there, and I'm exposing myself to my coach, to my bosses and my line managers. But at the end of the day, then they can see that I've identified the problem before they've had to tell me. That I already know what I've done wrong there, which really helps me, because then I don't make, hopefully, fingers crossed, won't make that same mistake again. So yeah. So be patient with it, ladies and gents. Be patient. Once you've, again, whether it's, again, similar to, I think, what was his name? Tom? I don't know what example I gave him. But if he is, for example, we've changed his diet round, not his diet, geez, stop making that mistake. I've already slagged them off enough, and I'm trying to say the same thing. If we've changed his macronutrients round, we've changed his exercise intensity and his volume around, maybe give that a month or so to see if that makes a change. It's not going to happen overnight. So be patient with it. Gosh, please. You know, and the same thing, you know, if you've got another example, don't ask me why I came up with those two examples. Just don't worry, I'm not I'm not having any of those problems, or those needs to problem at the moment, thankfully. But again, it was just a random thought that came into mind. So yeah, if you have broken up with this person, you know, or that person's broken up with that person, they're not going to feel amazing straight away. Or if not, they probably shouldn't have entered that relationship in the first place. You know, now I'm turning into counsellor, James. Gosh. So yeah, you know, they need to take time in order to start feeling better about themselves, because they've probably been in a relationship for a fair while. So yeah, it's going to take time, ladies and gents. It's going to take time, and please be patient with it. Okay. So again, we've looked at that from both a physiological and a psychological point of view. So, and you've always spoken about how it's important to be brave, you know, in that first initial step that we said. Go back a few minutes to check about that. I want to talk about something really, really important, and I'm going to make myself a little bit vulnerable here and speak up a little bit, because that soldier on mentality really gets on my nerves. Oh, I almost said another really bad word there. Gets on my beep nerves, all right? Because I think we're in no better position in today's day and age to speak up about things. If we've got a problem, if we've got an issue, if we've got somewhere where we want to improve, people are so afraid of what other people are going to think about them that they just never do it. So for me, I'll give you an example. For me, I don't mind, you know, and hopefully it'll help you, so please don't mind. You know, I've struggled really bad recently with my mental health. You know, maybe get into specifics in another podcast, but you know, I've suffered really, really bad. You know, a place I never thought I would be, but I made that brave decision to speak up to some people about it. They know who they are if they're listening, and you know, I wouldn't say I feel like almost like that step's been. I feel better. I would say that I'm managing it better, which is obviously dealt with a problem using that action plan that I did, or that I gave you guys. But yeah, so that, you know, that is something for me, which, you know, was really, really brave in my opinion, because I've dealt with it probably now. So what have I been at uni 5 years now? 2 years, 11, well, probably about 8 years now. So I've dealt with it for about 8 years now, and I've never really spoken up until the 8th year. So yeah, pretty sort of happy that I've done that now. But that required me to sort of eradicate what other people might have thought about it. And you know, I'm doing it now, because this is going out to however many people it's going to go out to. And, you know, some people might have their opinion about, James, you know, man up. Man up's another one of those words. And hopefully I'm going to get someone up to talk about student well-being and just well-being in general soon. But I just wanted to point out that point of view. You know, another example, you know, again, using that strength and conditioning point of view or a coaching point of view, I've spoken to many coaches about problems that I have in terms of specific points where I'm weaker, some points where I'm stronger. And my ability to identify those weaknesses are really brave, because if there's any chance of me getting a job, they need to know they already know what weaknesses I already have before I've even applied for the job. So that's really brave in that sense, because I'm putting myself out there to people who are already experts in that field. So that's something that needs to change, in my opinion. That soldier on mentality, that pick yourself up mentality is fantastic. Don't get me wrong. You know, I think there's certain points and there's certain things which require a bit more attention than others. You know, life's very difficult. We have to go through things sometimes, but there's a line, and that line will never, ever, ever be discovered, unfortunately, ladies and gents, because unless most people speak up about it, because no one really will know what that line is, of where they need to talk to someone, where they need to just crack on. It's going to pass. I think realizing after 8 years that the mental health issues aren't going to pass, I think it was my catalyst to make a change, or me being in an internship for nearly, not the same one, but obviously in total for about nearly 3.5 years now, was a catalyst to change. If I've not learned this yet, why am I not learning it? Or can I learn it from someone else? So that was my 2 catalysts. So please, if you, and my inboxes are literally always open on the James Fitzgerald Instagram, on the Fitzness Academy Instagram, on the Fitzness Podcast Instagram. They're always open in case anyone needs to speak about anything. Honestly, I'm always here for all of you who listen and make time to listen to me. So yeah. Ultimately, ladies and gents, I just want to finish off speaking about change by speaking about why it might help you long term. Because a lot of people say, all right, it needs to make a change, but why am I making a change? And that goes again onto that step number 2 of that action plan within the action plan that I gave you, is actually identifying why it's causing you some concern. You know, is this person not being happy in their relationship with someone else affecting their mental health? Is it affecting their physical health, you know, at uni, at work, at whatever they're doing? Or is this fact that was it Tom? Again, I keep forgetting. It's Tom or Stephen, whatever his name was. The example, because he's not losing weight, is that affecting his mental health? Is that affecting his physical energy to go to the gym and to do the sessions that I plan for him? Is it affecting him? You know, is it causing some people anxiety? Is it causing them other mental health issues? So identifying why these problems are there and why they need to be occurred, or why something might need to be improved and how, just the why, is really important in helping things like anxiety and other mental health issues. So just please do know that. And again, you know, if you've got anything or any concerns or any questions, I'll do my best to help you. Just please either send me an email, send me a message. You know, I'm always here for you guys, okay? You know, I'm a busy guy, but I'll get back to you. I will get back to you. So yeah, finishing off with one of my favorite sections, which are starting to come about, is the questions from the public section, which is I absolutely love because, again, like I mentioned in, was it Lauren's podcast, or was it, I think it might have been Ellie Threkel's podcast episode, where we spoke about why I started doing it. And it's because obviously if people know that I'm going to have an unbelievable guest on, which I obviously do majority of the time, or if not all the time, you know, they might have a question for those people. So if I didn't ask for people to ask questions and they finish the episode and be like, well, that really didn't answer this question that I had, then it would eat me up inside, because I knew that I've had 45, an hour and a half, 2 hours to speak to someone, and I could have asked them that question and they could have found out that question. So please do please do keep your eyes out for who's coming on the podcast next. I share it on as many socials as possible. So please do keep an eye out for that. So you can ask your question or ask a question that you may have. So how did you build the podcast? And I know exactly who this was from. And he's in fact trying to start his own podcast up. So, you know, if once he does, just please give him some support. Obviously, when he does, I'll link in whichever episode is closest to it. So, how did I build the podcast? I don't think I'm in a position to say how did I build the podcast, because I'm not sure what point is built, the word built defined as. Because I would say I don't think it is where I want it to be at the moment. In general. At the moment, I'm really happy where it is. But where I want it to be, I'm not finished building it yet. So I couldn't say how did I build it, because I'm not at the top, not at the highest story that I want to build it at yet. So I would say, how did I start from the beginning? I would literally just said, bought a microphone, have a pair of headphones, have a laptop camera of some kind, and click record and send out as many messages as I could. You know, I have a whiteboard over here. You guys can't see it, but I send out 6 mandatory guest inquiries a week. But realistically, I probably send out about, no joke, about probably like 16 or like almost 20 inquiries a week, based on people that I see and I absolutely love their stuff. Gosh, just dropped the microphone. Sorry about that. But yeah, sorry about that. I almost clapped the microphone. And I would have had to buy another microphone to build, keep building. So sorry about that. But yeah, I would say so that's how I built it, and I wouldn't say that it changed too much up until last week when we made the changes. But just being able to sort of keep enjoying it. That's why we've got to as many episodes as we are now on episode 43. Is being able to enjoy every single chat that you have. As soon as you stop enjoying it, I think it starts to become a chore. Something with a podcast, which takes a hell of a long time. We're recording. I think we're on about 36, 37 minutes now. So it takes about 36 minutes, or however long this episode takes to record, and then I have to edit it. So that probably takes about 2 times or 3 times as much time. Create all the artwork for it. Schedule when the posts are going to go out. Let people know. I couldn't tell you how long each episode takes because it changes on a daily basis. But what I would say is again, just keep enjoying it. Put in the hard work, as much hard work as you can, because realistically, the podcast, the quality of each episode is going to be reflected by how much work you put in. Not saying that, you put in as much hard work and don't release it because you don't think it's quality. Just try your best to make it as best it can be, and just click the sort of publish button. I think so many people are scared to press that publish button that they end up never doing it, and that's what sort of holds them back. So yeah, obviously, and try and be consistent with it. There's been times where I've not been consistent and I've not seen the growth, but now that I'm staying consistent, I'm starting to see that growth. So trying to post on as many days as we can. So apart from this episode, which is going to go out a day later because we've had some time lapse in between, because I'm trying to make sure that each episode is sort of well spaced out. Each episode goes live for me on Wednesday at 6 p.m. UK time, or GMT. So for me, that is the reason why, is because on a Wednesday, people are like, about halfway through the week, and I'm already feeling like crap, or I'm already feeling like shit. So for me, that's almost a way where I can inspire someone to keep going throughout that week, give them a bit of midweek motivation. That was inspired by Stephen Bartlett from the Diary of a CEO, who says he posts his stuff on Monday because Monday's the start of the week and people are in their car journey and they want to be he wants to inspire people, to conquer the week. I want to do the same thing, but almost help people get through the rest of the week. So yes, massive sort of big up to Stephen for doing that, because that was an awesome idea. And I always listen to his on a Monday morning after I finish my morning lecture and I'm on my way to the gym. So that's part of my routine. My next. I would say I haven't built the podcast yet, but that is a little sort of indication as to how I built it. So just get yourself a mic, or just use your Apple headphones. Find a guest or find a topic here that you want to speak about. I'm not the best judge for that because we don't really have a topic or a theme. I just speak to as many amazing people as I can. And find their stories and their journeys and their thoughts. Just click the record button, work as hard as you can on it, and click the publish button. And you'll be surprised as to how proud you'll feel after you release that episode, or even after one episode. I'm really proud of myself after I release an episode because I've created that. I've created that episode, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I've inspired as many people as possible. So stick at it, mate, or whoever it is. I think I know who it is. And just keep going. Just whenever someone doubts you, just take on whatever good pieces of advice that you can apply to the podcast. If people take a laugh and a joke, laugh back with them. Take it as a joke and just keep cracking on, mate. You're not gonna, people would love to do this, but they never do it. So be brave and be that person to do it. As my advice on that one. So how did you get back on track after being so inconsistent? I hope that's not not attacked on me, but I don't know if that's specific to me. I don't know if maybe I've typed that wrong or I've written that down wrong, and I think it might be, how do you get back on track after being inconsistent? I hope that's what it says. I might have just made that. How do you? Yeah, sorry, I misread that wrong. Whoever wrote that message is being like, no, I didn't mean you. I did not mean you. Sorry. No, but you didn't write that, don't worry. How do you get back on track after being inconsistent, sorry. That's a tricky one, because again, I think it depends based on each person, and it's so individualized. I would probably say that, again, having a plan of action for whenever you feel inconsistent is really important. So the hardest part is going to be about getting back on that consistency train. So whether it's going to the gym 5 times a week, right, find your days which you know you can go to the gym, block out those timings and go to the gym. For me, I found that a little bit hard. For example, an example that is going to the gym. So my mate Jack, who might be listening now, top man, we tried to go to the gym together straight after uni or straight after a lecture, because we know that we're already on campus, so we might as well go. It sounds bad, but we might as well go. So whether we feel terrible or not, or good or not, we just go, we train, and we just have a great time. So that is what we do. So that's something which helps us stay consistent. Maybe something like a diet is just a little. I think it depends a little bit on discipline. Being able to be like, right, cool, today we're gonna have a pizza. Today we're gonna go out for dinner, and then just being able to get back on track. You know, some people like doing things like meal prepping, and things like that, which is awesome. I think that's really, really good. But I think you just need to be really, like, sort of, really, really sort of focused on sort of not trying to be too military routine, like, you know, because things are going to happen, emergencies are going to happen, and not saying that you need to be really easygoing and, you know, just take things minute by minute and all this rubbish, but I would say stick to your weeks. So if you are planning things I plan things on a weekly basis. I don't look more than 7 days in advance, because, or I try not to. Maybe something like podcast, sorry, like booking someone on the podcast is something that requires a bit of attention in advance. So I do that. That's a little bit different. But something like that, I would say, yeah. So think about it in a week. Right, cool. Like I said, for example, using Josh's recipe books. On a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, we're going to be in chicken carbonara or whatever it is. But then on Friday, we're going to allow ourselves a takeaway, you know, so you can stay on track that way. Right, cool. So we've got work 9 to 5, Monday through to Friday. We're going to go to the gym either during our lunch break every single week of those 5 days, and you're going to have the 2 days off at the end, or we're going to go at 5 o'clock straight after work, so I'm there already. James, I work Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Right, cool. So Wednesday is going to be your day off. So you go Monday, Tuesday, straight after work, or in between work during your break, and then you have your break Wednesday, and then you either go to the gym on a Saturday or Sunday, one of the two. But you have those plans, those 7-day plans in process, or in concrete. Again, ladies and gents, don't get too discouraged when things sort of go wrong or they go off plan. But you know, because things happen, like I said, emergencies happen and things like that. So please don't sort of get too bogged down if something happens. But please just understand, you know, that they're going to happen, and you're just going to roll with the punches. When they happen, we'll make sort of a plan of action to either help the problem or help what needs to be done. Okay, so we're going to end it on that note, ladies and gents. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Fitzness Academy. See, I've done it again there. Yeah, first strike one. So thank you for listening to another episode of the Fitzness Podcast. Thank you all for your support as usual. Again, if you've got any questions or concerns, please do send me an email or send me a message on any of the platforms that are listed below. And look forward to the start of a journey with the same vision, but just a new face. Thank you very much for listening, guys, and I'll catch you soon. Take care.